There's only one person in Star Trek who Picard held a grudge over for 31 years. Throughout his storied career in Starfleet, Captain Jean-Luc Picard was the very embodiment of diplomacy, restraint, and emotional control. He was a man who believed in second chances, who held to the ideals of the Federation even in the face of adversity. But despite his seemingly unshakable poise, there was one individual who managed to burrow so deeply into Picard's psyche that the captain carried a grudge for over 3 decades. That person wasn't a Cardassian war criminal, a Borg queen, or even Q. It was a fellow Starfleet officer, Ro Laren. And the grudge Picard held wasn't born from betrayal in battle or acts of war. It came from something far more personal, the feeling of trust broken. Who was Ro Laren? Introduced in Star Trek: The Next Generation Season 5, Ensign Ro Laren was a Byron officer with a difficult past and a rebellious streak that clashed with Starfleet protocol. Her early days were marred by tragedy. A survivor of the Byron occupation by the Cardassians, she grew up displaced and distrustful of authority. Despite this, Ro was a brilliant tactical officer, handpicked by Admiral Kennelly and assigned to the USS Enterprise D under Captain Picard's command. Initially viewed with suspicion by the crew, especially given her past court-martial and demotion, Ro gradually earned Picard's respect. She challenged him, yes, but he admired her strength and her courage. He even mentored her, becoming something of a surrogate father figure. Their bond, built through missions and mutual trust, became one of the more surprising dynamics in TNG's later seasons. That's why her betrayal cut so deeply. The Maquis decision that broke everything. In the TNG episode Preemptive Strike Season 7, Ro was given an undercover mission to infiltrate the Maquis, a rogue group of former Federation citizens fighting the Cardassians after the controversial peace treaty between the Federation and Cardassia. It was supposed to be a short-term operation. Ro was to gain their trust, gather intelligence, and help Starfleet prevent escalation. But over time, she found herself sympathizing with the Maquis cause, especially given her own traumatic past under Cardassian rule. The Maquis weren't just rebels to her. They were her people, displaced, angry, and forgotten. And in a heartbreaking twist, Ro defected to the Maquis at the climax of the mission, abandoning Starfleet and breaking Picard's trust in a single moment. Her choice devastated him. Picard had believed in her when no one else did. He had staked his reputation on her redemption. And in the end, he felt she threw all that away and threw him away with it. The grudge begins. Picard was never one to wallow in emotion. But Ro Laren was different. He had opened a door for her into the values and structure of Starfleet. She had seemed to walk through it, only to slam it shut in his face. Unlike his grudges with enemies, like the Borg, who violated his body and mind, his hurt over Ro was purely emotional, not tactical. And that's why it stayed buried. Quiet. Untouched. For 31 years, Ro Laren disappeared from his life and from the Star Trek narrative. Fans often wondered what became of her. Some speculated she died with the Maquis during the Dominion War. Others hoped she'd return to Starfleet one day. But one person never forgot her: Jean-Luc Picard. Star Trek: Picard Season 3, the return no one expected. In Star Trek: Picard Season 3, Ro Laren returned, and so did Picard's old wound. Now a commander in Starfleet intelligence, Ro was no longer the young, brash ensign of TNG. She was seasoned, complex, and haunted by the consequences of her choices. When she appeared in the episode Imposters, it sent shockwaves through both the fanbase and Picard himself. For Picard, her presence triggered a cascade of unresolved emotion. The old grudge he'd buried, perhaps thinking time had dulled it, resurfaced with sharp edges. In a quietly volcanic exchange in the holodeck bar, Picard laid bare his pain. Greater than, "You broke my heart. You betrayed everything I believed in." This was not the measured tone of Starfleet diplomacy. This was a man confronting the only person who had ever personally betrayed him in a way he never got over. The Borg had made him a weapon, yes. Q had toyed with his life. But Ro had made a choice that Picard took as rejection not just of Starfleet, but of him. And then came Ro's response. She didn't deny her past. She didn't justify it. She explained it. Her defection wasn't about him. It was about her people, her trauma, her identity. And for the first time, Picard saw the full picture, not just as a commanding officer, but as a man who'd failed to see how deeply Ro was hurting all those years ago. A healing moment. And another loss. After 31 years of silence, they reconciled. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Their final moments together were tinged with hope and redemption. Ro had returned to do the right thing. She handed Picard critical intelligence about the changeling infiltration within Starfleet, showing that she never truly abandoned the values he'd taught her. And then, in a cruel echo of the past, she sacrificed herself to protect him, destroying her shuttle and ensuring the enemy could not pursue Picard and the Titan. Picard was left stunned, grieving again, but this time, not in betrayal, in understanding. It took 3 decades, but in her final moments, Ro Laren earned back his trust. And more importantly, his forgiveness. Why Picard's grudge mattered more than any other. Picard's grudge against Ro Laren wasn't about duty. It wasn't about politics. It was about faith, the faith he placed in someone he believed was lost, and whom he thought he'd helped save. Starfleet captains don't often get emotionally compromised. They're trained to lead with clarity, objectivity, and vision. But Picard was never just a captain. He was a human being, raised with conviction and bound by honor. Ro Laren's betrayal pierced that armor. And it stayed buried because the wound came from someone he had come to care about. Even with enemies like the Borg, he eventually found closure. With Q, he found mutual respect and enlightenment. But with Ro, the ending had been abrupt, unresolved. It was the only truly personal grudge Picard ever held, because it wasn't rooted in ideology or conflict. It was rooted in disappointment and heartbreak. The legacy of Ro and Picard. Ro Laren's arc, from defiant ensign to Maquis rebel to redeemed officer, mirrors the often messy journey of identity and loyalty in Star Trek's moral universe. And her relationship with Picard, fractured, complicated, and ultimately tragic, is one of the most human in the franchise. Picard's 31-year grudge wasn't petty. It was proof that even the most disciplined mind can carry emotional scars that time alone won't heal. And when it finally did heal, it wasn't through logic or orders. It was through truth, through vulnerability, through forgiveness. Ro's final gift wasn't just intelligence on the changelings. It was the chance for closure, for both her and the captain who never stopped believing in who she could be. And for Picard, it was a reminder that even old grudges, held for decades, can be let go, not with bitterness, but with grace. And when it finally did heal, it wasn't through logic or orders. It was through truth, through vulnerability, through forgiveness. Ro's final gift wasn't just intelligence on the changelings. It was the chance for closure, for both her and the captain who never stopped believing in who she could be. And for Picard, it was a reminder that even old grudges, held for decades, can